everyone, I'm your host Neha, and you're tuned into Durian Dreaming, the show that brings you extraordinary stories from seemingly ordinary experiences in Indonesia's fast paced market. Let's dive into today's conversation with another inspiring guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Durian Dreaming. Today, we are joined by Argho Das. He's the president director of a company called Boehringer. It's a German pharmaceutical company. He's been in this sector for close to 25 years now, and with Boehringer for about 12 years plus. He's passionate about improving health access in Indonesia and recently led one of the biggest programs called Stop Rabies. So we look forward to hearing his insights on healthcare innovation, public health, and where Indonesia's medical future is headed. So let's welcome a new guest, Argho Das. Hi, Argho. Welcome to a podcast, Durian Dreaming.
Thank you very much, Neha. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here with you. And also, hello from my side to all your viewers.
Thank you so much, Argho. So, Argho, you have been with Boehringer for more than a decade now, right? And in the pharma sector for close to 25 years. So, for someone who is outside the industry, how would you describe a typical pharmaceutical day?
Okay. So I think for us, to be very honest, let me go back a little bit, and frankly, I can say, when I started my career, I never had pharmaceutical industry as one of the options, and it happened for me more as an accident than as a planned choice. And probably only after I joined the pharmacy college, that's the first time that I started to looking at the drugstores. Otherwise, I never even noticed the drugstores
Yeah.
while passing through any street. But
Hmm.
having said that, I think it's been truly transformational for me because and why I say that is because every day when we are working in whatever capacity that we are in our jobs in the pharmaceutical industry,
Hmm.
somewhere or the other, what motivates me is that there is something that I'm doing which is helping one patient or the other in some way. So that's
Yeah.
really something very nice because I mean we have all had situations in our families where we really don't want anyone to fall sick or to have an emergency situation, but we know how life is,
Hmm.
and it's very uncertain, and therefore at times when emergency happens, I think we rush to the hospital and we consult the doctor, and then basically it's the pharmaceutical industry which provides these doctors the tools with which they are treating the patients, whether it is the medicines or other forms of treatment.
And what can be a more noble profession, like you said, than being in the sector where you can make an impact and you can help people? Argo, you have worked across many countries in different cultures, in different continents. What part of your leadership style has stayed the same everywhere, and what part of it had to be evolved specifically for the Indonesian market?
Okay, so I think for me, what stayed the same for me, I would probably say, I think one of the key things that I follow is on accountability. So there are three things actually. It's accountability, then some amount of agility and entrepreneurship. So these are the three principles. I mean, you can use them different words for it. So accountability is for me is important because we are all accountable, number one, for our customers and for our patients, and also for the company and the industry that we are working for. So that has remained the same. So basically,
Okay.
accepting objectives which I can deliver or which my team can deliver is an important one. And once we accept the objectives, then basically, we try our best to meet the objectives, because at the end of the day, it's impacting the lives of people. So it's very important for us that we are accountable, and that's where we make choices, and we kind of be clear in terms of what is it that we can deliver, and how much of it can we deliver, and how much
Hmm.
of it we won't be able to deliver, so that we are able to serve our customers, we're able to serve our patients appropriately. So for me, accountability has been very, very important.
Hmm.
Then, of course, as you can imagine, for our business, in a way, agility is also important because you're talking about patients, you're talking about lives which could be at stake, and therefore the speed at which we act and the speed at which we we deliver solutions is also quite important for us. So I think it's about agility, which is important because I mean, sometimes it's also a trade-off because while if you have a little bit more time, maybe it kind of gives a feeling that maybe the decision might be a bit better, but I think it's more about doing it in a correct way rather than always trying to do it in the best way. So because again, it's to do with the way and the kind of work that we are doing, where I feel there is a need for a certain level of agility without of course compromising the quality of the work that we are doing. And last but not the least is I think we are more and more getting into a world which is constantly changing, and therefore I've been a strong I mean I've always had that, and we have always tried to improve things in small ways. I think I'm a big believer of marginal improvements in whatever we do, and that's where that entrepreneurship comes in. So it's not about suddenly one day doing something dramatically different or superbly amazing or however you want to describe it, but it's about improving what we are doing on a regular ongoing basis,
Mm.
and that eventually leading it to something which would be quite a big difference in the longer term. So I think for me these are the three things that I really love to follow, and
Mm.
things that have stayed with me for a long period of time.
And out of these things, what part had to evolve for when you came to Indonesia?
So when I came to Indonesia, I think what evolved a bit is the alignment part,
Mm.
because I think in Indonesia. See, because in when I worked in different countries, the cultures are very different,
Mm.
and it's not to say one culture. I mean, every culture they have their nuances, and in
Mm.
Indonesia, I think the people are great and they're extremely friendly. And here the culture is, how I would put it, is more community oriented culture
Yeah.
where people love to move together, people love to
Mm.
move along, and
Yeah.
therefore it's important that we have or we try to, or at least I try to include the alignment piece in a more significant way than what
Yeah.
I probably did in my previous roles, to ensure that the team has a full clear picture of how maybe we are looking at it,
Mm.
and take their inputs, take their feedback as well, and ensure that that this accountability part is not a one track thing, but it's as a team, we really buy into it, and we align,
Mm.
and we are accountable for what we are doing.
Yeah. That's one of the things which all of us or many of us notice that it's never a top-down approach which works in Indonesia. And as they call it, I think in Bahasa Semangat, like, you have to move together. So align everyone at every step of the way, versus saying, oh, this is how it's going to be rolled out.
So true, so
And
true.
yeah, how has the name originated? Secondly, what does Boehringer do?
Yeah, we are one of the leading pharmaceutical companies globally.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
to your first question, how the name came about is we are a German company, and the company was founded by Mr. Albert Boehringer,
Mhm.
and it's from that family's name. That's how the name Boehringer comes into the company name. And this company was founded in Ingelheim, which is a city which is not very far from Frankfurt,
Okay.
and that's how Boehringer Ingelheim, the name comes about. I mean, it's still a family-owned company,
Hmm.
and it's a company that believes in generations. It's a company that because it's also a family-owned, so there is a more longer-term vision. How we
Hmm.
can really improve the lives of people and transform the lives across generations.
Argo, what is something which people often misunderstand about how medicines are developed?
I think sometimes, I mean, people often don't see, maybe because, there is a massive level of effort that goes in the research and development for medicines, and that is a part which is, unless you really enter the industry, you'll not probably see how challenging it is, because we are a research driven company. All our products are our own original research molecules, and
Mhm.
some of them are not some of them, in fact, most of them are really, the best in class in their categories.
Okay.
Now, pharma research is not easy as you may imagine. It's so, for example, you are dealing with a complicated situation, a complicated illness, and then when you start researching about that illness and the agents which could provide the cure, you have millions and many hundred thousands of different options by which you can approach the treatment. And then
Mm.
to sort of zero in on that one or
Mm.
two particular treatment pathways which could
Mm.
provide an efficacious and safe cure is not easy. So that itself takes a massive level of effort
Mm.
by our research scientists to really come up with these innovative solutions. Like, for example, when you're thinking about, say, treatment of hypertension, everybody is, I mean, takes it like a standard thing. But when you think about it, years back, when these treatments were not available, people did not have an option. And that's when, or a team, or a research team in
Mm.
some pharmaceutical company researched on these products and came up with this. And Boehringer was one of them. And we have a great product in hypertension as well. But besides that point, I think what I'm trying to highlight is that coming up with these innovative medications is a extremely complicated process.
Mm.
And one is, at the lab level, I am a scientist, and I can, I probably think that maybe molecule A is good for a particular disease. Okay, I've tried it in the lab and I see it's working, but that does not guarantee that this molecule can come into the market, because after the lab, then there are multiple steps that this
Mm.
molecule needs to pass through. There are
Mm.
different levels of trials, like we call them as phase one, phase two, phase three, and so on. There are different levels of trials going into human trials and so on and so forth. And eventually, you have to establish the efficacy, safety, and various other parameters through these trials to convince the
Mm.
regulators in the different countries around the world
Mm.
that the drug
Mm.
that you are trying to bring to the
Yeah.
market
Yeah.
not only is efficacious but is also safe and also meets several other parameters for it to be used. So only after that the regulatory body gives you an approval that, okay, this drug can be used for this particular critical condition or this particular disease. So that's
Okay.
how it happens. That many times when you are trying to bring a new medicine to the market, many times it may not see the light of the day because of
Mm.
some reason or the other. And
Argo, before we went on record, you were telling me about this new medicine that's been developed by Boehringer for brain stroke. Can you tell us something more about it? What is it?
it's been there
Okay.
for a long time now.
Okay.
But basically, yes. So we have a drug which prevents what we call as ischemic stroke, which is caused because of a clot that could travel to your brain and could block a vessel. So this is a drug which is used for that particular condition.
You have any tips or any, few things that one should keep in mind to prevent such things?
Yeah, of course. I think, I mean, see, stroke, as we all can understand, I mean, it's in Indonesia, for instance, it's one of the major reasons for death and morbidity, so mortality and morbidity. So basically, it's a thing that we would all like to prevent for all of us and also for our near and dear ones. Whether it's hypertension, whether it's diabetes,
Mm.
whether it's weight management, leading an active life with a moderate level of exercise. And I think diet plays a very important role. And of course, controlling all the other factors which could make your lifestyle better. I think that is the most important thing. And
Mm.
also, I think as we age, what is also important is to ensure that we do our regular medical checkups. But then, of course, when you're looking at a situation where unfortunately somebody might have a stroke, then
Mm.
what I can share with you is Firstly, you need to just remember this very simple word called FAST.
Okay.
FAST.
Mm.
So it's an acronym. So F stands for face dropping. So, if you have a situation where, if you see around you, where one side of the face drops or feels numb, that's a very dangerous sign. So be very careful about that. And in those situations, ask the person to smile. Is he or she able to smile?
Mm.
And the smile might look a bit uneven. So that's
Mm.
that's the first point that you may want to look at. Then the
Mm.
second thing is about A stands for arms. So, if there is any kind of a weakness in the arm. So basically what it means is that if there's a sudden weakness or numbness in one of the arms or the legs, so that
Mm.
could be another sign. So
Okay.
ask them to raise both arms. Can they raise both arms? And one arm may drift outward, downward, may not be proper. So that's the second thing. The third is speech difficulty. So the S of FAST, S
Mm.
stands for speech. So it's basically speech difficulty. So is there trouble finding words? Is there trouble speaking?
Mm.
So words are getting mixed up. So that's the other indicator. And the last is T stands for time. So once you have all these three factors, the face
Mm.
dropping, the arms is not really functioning as it should,
Mm.
speech issues, time is of the essence. Then immediately rush the patient to the emergency room of your nearest hospital. Ideally, it would be great if it's a stroke ready hospital. Many
Okay.
hospitals may not be stroke ready, but
Mm.
at least rush them to a good hospital where you know probably that they have a reasonably good uh, setup as much
Mm.
as possible. If you are not familiar with the stroke ready hospitals in your area, then
Mm.
ensure that that patient is attended to immediately, because each second there are the cells in the brain are dying, and in thousands. So it's important that such patients are attended to immediately, and the hospital does whatever tests need to be done, CT scan, etc., etc., and the treatment is started as soon as possible. There is something which we call as a golden window. The maximum period is about 4.5 hours. Beyond that, the treatment with the medication may not be effective. So that effective, and therefore, I mean, that's the maximum, but we don't want to go
Yeah.
there. So the idea is to start the treatment as quickly as possible.
Right. And what does this medicine do that you were talking about?
So this medicine is a thrombolytic. So what it means is lytic. The word means breakdown. So what it does is it breaks down the clot and it ensures that the blood supply. So basically, imagine like a pipe in your
Mm.
say in your kitchen, and the
Mm.
pipe has there is it's gotten clogged because of something, and therefore the water is not able to pass. In the same way, in
Mm.
our brain, in our body, we have the blood vessels, and these blood vessels, I mean, blood flows through them, and maybe there is a clot which is blocking the flow of the blood to
Mm.
some parts. And what happens in our brain is that the vessels are very very narrow, and if you have a slightly bigger size clot, then it can block the flow of blood in
Mm.
various parts of the brain. And if blood is not able to flow to those parts of the brain, then those parts of the brain are unable to get the nutrition, they're unable to get whatever is required, like your oxygen, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that the cells in those parts of the brain would start to die. So what you
Mm.
need to do is to clear that pipe in your brain or the blood vessel in your brain, and for
Mm.
that, what this medicine does is it acts as a thrombolytic. So it breaks down the clot. It ensures that as quickly as possible, and the blood flow is restored, and those cells are able to get whatever is required for them, and we prevent any further damage.
Wow. Thank you, Argo, for sharing us at length about how one should keep in mind certain symptoms, prevent, and also the development about this medication, how it can help to a certain extent. So when I was doing my research on Boehringer, um, I had read about your rabies program and that it reached about close to 10,000 kids in Bali. So can
Yeah.
you tell us about this program? What is this rabies program. And the rabies is 100% preventable. So, what is the biggest myth or misunderstanding which people in Indonesia usually misunderstand?
And I think first I would like to mention that, it's very interesting because, while we talk about human pharma and animal health
Yeah.
separately, but you would be surprised how intricately they are linked together. And rabies is a great example for it because, while rabies impacts animals, but it also has a very, I mean, it has a very negative effect on humans as well, as we all know. And in fact, if you are bitten by animals which have rabies, then and if you're not treated immediately, then it could also lead to death. Yeah, I mean that's it's a really sad thing because, as you mentioned correctly, rabies is 100% preventable. However, in Indonesia particularly, rabies is kind of endemic, and in some places like Bali, as you mentioned, it's a major challenge in every year. Many people unfortunately succumbed to rabies infection. And of course, it's I mean, while the government is doing its part, and we as companies, we as organizations, we are also trying to support in whatever way possible, but it is not something that can be eradicated in a very short period of time, but it requires a lot of effort to do that and to eradicate rabies. But having said that, it's something which is so much preventable, and it's just about knowing some basic things. And that's why we were doing this program in Indonesia and in Bali, where we are trying to educate the children about
Mm.
rabies, because what we have seen in our studies is that the children are the most vulnerable when it comes to rabies related infection and deaths. And that is why we were targeting the children, and also because you know the children are our future, and if they are aware, it makes a lot of difference. And plus, the way we were doing this program is also that when they go back to their houses, they can also
Mm.
talk to their parents, they can also talk to their brothers, siblings, and other people around. So that would also help to spread a little bit more the awareness of regarding rabies prevention. So that was the idea of the activity that we were doing. But then coming back to your question around the myths and misunderstanding that we have around rabies. I think the first one is that what I've heard often. I'm not sure if it's I mean I can share from my own experience what the kind of myths that I've heard. Like the first one is that maybe that rabies only spreads through dog bites, but it's not just dog
Yeah.
bites. It can spread through dogs, cats, monkeys, bats, and also maybe some other animals. But I think typically in our societies, the most common ones
Yeah.
are dogs and cats. Yeah, so that's one. Then the second myth, which I've often heard, is that only stray dogs or stray cats, or maybe, if you see a crazy dog, they can transmit rabies. That's also not
Mm.
100% true. Because sometimes, even pet dogs and cats could also transmit rabies if they are not vaccinated. Or if it has
Mm.
interacted with an infected animal, then it could still carry the virus. What happens is that many of these infected animals don't show symptoms for weeks, so you don't know if that animal is infected or not. So vaccination for even your
Mm.
regular your pet dogs and cats, absolutely important and critical.
I know we are jumping the conversation. Argo talked about stroke and heart diseases being Indonesia's biggest killers. We keep hearing that government make amendments to attract world-class medical talent. But what's the real barrier?
But I think, I mean, if I really think about it, I think it's very much required for Indonesia, and I strongly support what the government is doing in this direction, because I mean, we learn from colleagues and others, who have a better experience in particular areas, and therefore I strongly encourage the government's approach of allowing medical talent and medical professionals to come to Indonesia and to practice in Indonesia, because then it would be a very nice add-on to what Indonesia has to offer, and we know that there is a significant amount of medical tourism that happens out of Indonesia. We know, I mean, the government also, I think I'm very well aware that there is a significant amount of people who are traveling to our neighboring countries for medical treatments, and we need to understand what is the reason driving this. And there are different reasons driving this. I think one of the reasons definitely or could be, maybe the quality of medical care available in those countries, and if there are gaps in those medical care facilities, I think that's where I think the government is trying to bridge. And for that, I would really, I mean, encourage the government's effort, and also completely support the government's initiative to encourage, foreign medical practitioners to come to Indonesia and to practice and to build the confidence of the people, because I think that way, it would also help to build the confidence of the people in terms of that quality medical practitioners. It's not to say that the Indonesian doctors are not providing high quality. Many of them are, most of them are, in fact. But I think addition of foreign talent, and addition of people who come from countries where they have an experience with maybe medical, maybe more advanced treatment options, could further help in improving the quality of treatment that happens in Indonesia, and improve the confidence of the local Indonesian people, so that they feel more confident to be treated in Indonesia rather than trying to go to the neighboring countries for treatment.
When you think about patient access, what is the most underestimated barrier that people rarely talk about?
I think in Indonesia, I think one of the challenges that has been when it comes to patient access
Mm.
is, the availability. I think from a pharmaceutical industry standpoint, what I can say is the availability of innovative medications. When I'm looking at the neighboring countries, whether it's Singapore or Malaysia,
Mm.
you have a lot of innovative medications which are available in these countries much sooner than they are available in Indonesia.
Mm.
I think the government needs to reflect and review, what are the factors, and why is it happening this way,
Mm.
and could there be some interventions that could be done by which, we could make these medications available to the Indonesian population faster.
Okay.
So that, I think, is probably one of the factors that could impact, the treatment that is available for Indonesian people. You know.
Right. And when you say sustainable health for generations, what does it really mean?
So what it really means, I think, for us as a company is that, we are not just here to sell our medicines, and that's about it.
Mm.
What we are here is also to help improve the capabilities of the community that we serve. Just to give you an example, while we're talking about stroke, and how stroke is such a challenging condition where it leads to one of the highest levels of death and also disability amongst the population. What we are doing is we are not just here to um, provide a solution in the form of a product, but what we are also
Mm.
doing is we have a team which is working closely with hospitals in improving the stroke readiness in those hospitals. What I mean by that is, for example, as I mentioned to you, that the time is really very critical, and the golden period is something which is just super important, because every second matters when you have this kind of a situation.
Mm.
So what this team does is that they work with the hospitals to reduce the door to needle time. So what it means is that by door we mean, when the patient arrives at the hospital,
Mm.
to the time until when, the patient is administered the medication. So what we are doing is, I mean, this team works with the hospital cross functionally with multiple departments and
Mm.
multiple stakeholders to see how we can improve the process, so that when the patient checks in to the time when the patient is actually given the
Mm.
given the treatment, so from there to the diagnosis to all
Mm.
the different processes, how quickly can those happen, so that we really reduce the time significantly, the door to needle time, so that it's within the golden window, and we improve on that further, so that
Mm.
we are able to really save the lives of these patients, and
Mm.
also reduce the complications. So this is just one example of how we are what we mean by sustainable health. I think the other topic also is, as you mentioned, you talked about rabies. So that's the other area where we are working with communities. We
Mm.
are sometimes in some years, we are supporting vaccination of dogs and cats in different regions. And like this year, our focus was on education. So that's why we were involved in educating children in Bali, where it's I mean, rabies is really a much bigger challenge and concern, and we reached to more than 10,000 children in Bali. So that's how we are also working with the communities. We are working with the medical fraternity. We are trying to do our part in our little way to improve the capabilities of how the medical treatment happens, and improve the knowledge, provide the latest scientific knowledge information to the medical fraternity, and improving the capability in that way. So that's how it's one of the ways by which we hope to contribute to sustainable health for generations.
And Argo, if Indonesians could adopt just one simple habit that could transform their long term health, what would you choose?
I mean, probably for me, I think I mean, this is something that I'm also trying to do. I'm not 100% successful, but this is what I'm trying to do. So probably I'll keep it simple, and share what I'm also trying to do is basically to reduce the sugar and the fried food consumption, and increase vegetables and salads in my diet,
Right. And
and do
and
some exercises.
right. And any message for the policymakers?
I think the policymakers should do more to get to really step up their work in terms of really what they are trying to do is to get more mix in the medical fraternity, where they get in people from those countries where the Indonesian patients are now going for seeking treatment. And there are
Mm.
so many countries where you have really remarkable experts, and there are many very famous and popular hospitals worldwide, where which are considered as centers of excellence. I think if the policymakers could do something where some of them could be could set up their centers in Indonesia, I think that would really build the confidence of the people, and prevent them from seeking treatment outside Indonesia. So I think that would be really great, I think, for the government as well, and also for the people. I don't think anybody would like to spend additional money to go to, say, a Singapore or a Malaysia to get a treatment, once they have the confidence that the same level of treatment and the same quality of treatment is available in Indonesia. That's one. And the second thing also would be that if the government could support companies to make the innovative products more accessible to the general population in Indonesia. And it takes a lot of effort, and of course, a massive level of investment to get one molecule to see the light of the day from the lab to the market. And while doing that, there are several hundreds and thousands which fall by the way. So many don't even make it, but the companies still keep on investing, because at the end of the day, what we are trying to do is we are trying to trying to address the unmet medical needs that people have around the world. And there are so many unmet medical needs which still exist, and that
Mm.
is what most pharmaceutical companies are working towards. So that's why
Mm.
what sometimes I feel policymakers probably may need to give a little bit more attention to is the fact that these innovative medications don't just offer a short-term benefit, but they also offer a long-term benefit. Like, for example, if you are talking about a diabetic medication which was, say, 10 years before in the market, then those medications used to only address things related to diabetes alone. Whereas
Mm.
now, we have medications which are not just addressing the diabetes part of the disease, but it's also
Mm.
because diabetes is not just about, it's not just about the pancreas, because when you have diabetes, it also affects other organs in your body as well. It affects
Mm.
your heart, it affects your kidneys, and so on and so forth. So whereas nowadays, for example, the kind of innovative medication that I'm talking about, it not only prevents or not only controls the diabetes indication, but it also has a tremendously positive effect when it comes to heart, when it comes to, preserving your kidneys and protecting your kidneys. So those are, some of the things which we are also working on. It's not that the government is not listening and the policymakers are not listening, but I think I hope some more work and some more effort is put in this direction, which could be beneficial for the patients of Indonesia and also for the government when they are looking at the budget impact in the longer term.
Very insightful, Argo. One last question before we end this conversation. What is next for Boehringer? Any new research, any new medication that Boehringer is working on?
There are lots of, we are, as I mentioned, we are an innovative pharmaceutical company. There are many different areas that Boehringer is working on. Of course, I would not be able to share that in the podcast, but I mean, there are some which are already, in the public domain. We are, working in different areas which have a very significant unmet need, which could be different types of cancer and different types of pulmonary fibrosis, interstitial lung disease, and so on and so forth. So, there are different areas where Boehringer is working on these and beyond, where, we will see innovative medications coming in the future.
Thank you, Argo, for a very insightful and interesting conversation. We wish Boehringer all the best because whatever development and research that Boehringer is doing is going to truly impact the society. So, best of luck with that. And thanks once again for taking out the time to be with us.
Thank you so much, Neha. Absolutely a pleasure and lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Durian Dreaming. I hope today's discussion sparked some new ideas for you. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and stay tuned for more exciting stories. Until next time, keep dreaming big.